Broadcasting from Manhattan Beach and the World Wide Web, you're listening to CHSR, HealthyLife.net.
As a service to our listeners, this program is for general information and entertainment purposes only. CHSR, HealthyLife.net does not recommend, endorse, or object to the views, products, or topics expressed or discussed by show hosts or their guests. We suggest you always consult with your own personal, medical, financial, or legal advisor.
Hi, everybody. Helping yourself to know how is why you're here with Dr. Geer, and you're listening to the Doctor on Call Hour at HealthyLife.net. Today we have Shrink Wrap on Call, where we hear from the people behind the creative curtain, their newest endeavors, how their minds work, and what makes them tick. It's about what we can learn from the trials and triumphs of celebrity relationships. Welcome to the show, because it is going to be a terrific one. I have such an outstanding guest that I usually feature two people, but my guest, celebrity psychic Leo Brown, is unto himself and will be with us the entire hour. So now, despite the odds placed before him, he was told by doctors that he wouldn't live past the age of 30 because he was born with cerebral palsy. At the age of 21, Leo discovered that he, like others in his family, possessed what people call the gift. And as time went on, Leo decided to take the time to develop his intuition and soon noticed that he could not only help people to heal, but also heal himself. He's embarking on his mission of helping people from all over the world, with clients ranging from A-list celebrities to the boy and girl next door. He's the author of Honey, I'm Fabulous and So Are You, and I am delighted to have you joining us for the next hour. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
It's a real pleasure. So let's start with, everybody wants a reading, and many people are skeptical of it. In fact, I was just reading about one of the mediums was going to be starting his own show, and one of the celebrities, in fact, was saying, I have to be skeptical with this. There's no way they can't Google this or go online or find out, what's really happening. How did you first get the information that helped you authenticate that what you were telling people was from the other side, not from inside the computer?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you. Honestly and truly, I would say that's where not only did my intuition come in, because your intuition, I feel that when your intuition tells you the truth, at least for me, it shouts at me. And also, it was confirmation for whenever I would read the person. I wouldn't research them. I wouldn't do let me Google them and see what no, I wouldn't do that, because I'm like, that's not authentic. That's not real. And I know what it's like to be on the opposite end of the table. I've had readings myself. And I ask the same questions like everyone else. I want to know about my money and, am I going to find a husband? And I have the same questions. Right. So
fame and fortune, am I going to be successful?
Like we all,
the love of my life.
Right. Because deep down, if you think about that, we all want stability, which is where money comes in. We all want to be secure, or we want to feel safe. And then when it comes to love, we just want to be cared for.
Loved.
Yeah.
Loved.
And that's a human need. We all want that. Every human being on the planet wants that. So, I would just say, okay, well, I'm just going to be honest with them and tell them what I thought. Even if, yes, I may have known what they did, but the difference was I didn't know who they were. You know what I mean? Like, I knew who they were in their career, but I didn't know who they were personally. So that's what made it, I think, that was how I confirmed, I knew, okay, I'm steering in the right direction.
So can you think of one of the readings that you have done where the information that you shared with somebody just knocked their socks off, that they were like, oh, my God, how could you know that? That's insane, right?
Yes. There was one person I did a reading for, Jenna Jameson. And at the time, she was going through, and for those of you who don't know, Jenna Jameson was a former adult film star, and she became an author. And, yeah, and at the time, she was really going through a lot. And I had read some of the stuff in the headlines, but I was like, okay, I'm not going to, when it comes to the news, I kind of take the news with a grain of salt because their job is to report what they know,
Right,
so,
right.
So I said, well, let me do a reading for her. Something in me was like, do a reading for Jenna and see what comes up. And I did a reading for her, and she saw it, and she was like, oh, my God, you picked up things that nobody knew, that I've told people just personally, people like my friends. Nobody knows this stuff. Where did you get this? And I was like, well, this is... And she swore up and down I was Googling her. And I said, no, I didn't Google you. I said, don't get me wrong. I know who you are, but I didn't Google your issues. I'm like, how can I Google that? I don't know that. So, and she just was blown away by it. And we've been friends via social media ever since.
Oh, for goodness sake. So now, where do you get it from? Do you get it? So I have a dear friend who's a celebrity psychic as well, medium, and her son is on the other side for many years, and much of her information comes from Randy. It's Maria Papapetros. She's... I know Maria, yes. You know Maria. Maria's the dearest friend of mine, and she's, like you, remarkable. Everybody turns to her and relies on her for exactly what you said. Will I be healthy? Will I have love? Will I succeed?
Yeah, will I be happy?
Exactly. And much of her information comes from Randy. I mean, there'll be times when she'll be doing a reading and she'll say, Randy says, and she'll tell you what he says. Do you have someone on the other side? Do you have an angel on the other side? Do you just have a whole lot of people who are behind you who are giving you information? That's a great question.
Well, for me, that's a great, once again, I love these questions. I work with spirit guides. I work with my own. And what I also do is, during the reading, I'll also say that I want to tune into your spirit guides, because we all have them. And, and I also want to tune into your ancestors, too. So that way they can come through. And so I'm like, let me work with yours and mine. I kind of look at it like a cookout. We're all bringing something special to the cookout. We're all bringing a dish. So in my mind, I view it as a cookout. So I'm like, okay, all right, ancestors and spirit guides, bring your dishes to the cookout, and the dishes are the information. And so I just tell the client what I'm being told to tell them. Because my job is to tell you not what you want to hear, but what you need to know.
Right. And do you find that the information, do you sometimes get information that people want to know, but you really don't want to tell them?
Yes. Oh, my goodness, yes, all the time.
So how do you deal with that?
Well, I try to, this is what I'll actually say before a reading, too. And I actually learned this from Teresa Caputo.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was funny. I never thought of myself as a medium until maybe 7 years old. And I was like, okay, because I never, because with mediums you either got it or you don't. So I'm like, and I'd watch her show, and I'm like, that's a really good thing. And she would say, if I say something negative, I'm going to tell you in a way that you can handle it. And I'm like, really good way to say that, so I'm learning. And I'm like, okay. And so that's what I do. I tell people, if I say something that you can't handle or even I can't believe, I'm going to tell you in a way that you can handle it. Because life is interchangeable. Things change in any given moment.
Absolutely. And that is so true. And, I have found I am a devoted fan of and committed to the other side. In fact, I have a book called The Afterlife Connection, and I talk from a therapeutic point how to connect with loved ones on the other side, not only from my own personal experience, but Maria introduced me to so much wonder so many years ago that, that when my mother was ill and getting ready to pass over, I actually said, all right, let's set up sign language. You've got to give me a sign. I got to know when you're around. And she hasn't stopped talking for like 21 years that she's on the other side. But with that being said, I have had experiences where I have been told things that have been very unnerving and very alarming, and it's almost like you can plant a seed in somebody's mind. If somebody says, oh, you could get this illness, or your father's going to pass at such and such a time. And, I've had 3 or 4 people tell me my father was going to be gone by December. Let's go back 5 years, 4 years, 3 years. My father's about to turn 105. He's not going anywhere soon. And so it was a little disconcerting. People would say, oh, I don't want to tell you this, but he's not going to make it past December. He's going to fall, and that's going to be it. So here's my question, Leo. Are they picking up information that is possible? And then do you share it? Because it can, we all know about manifesting. And if you have a notion in your head that, oh, my God, I could get this disease, or, oh, my God, my father could die, you're walking around generating psychic mental energy in this negative direction. So how do you tackle that? How do you deal with that?
Well, number one, I guess for me, when it comes to things like death or someone passing, I won't tell you that. That's not for me to do. Good for you. That's not me. And also that's a cardinal rule in being a reader. You don't tell death and you don't tell medical advice because, number one, you are not a mortician, and number 2, you're not a doctor.
Beautifully said.
Beautifully said. Yes, I'm not going to tell you that. That's not my job because I wouldn't want, like I said, I've been on the opposite side of the table, but I've got readings to do, and I don't want someone to tell me, be like, your sister's going. I don't want to know that. I don't want to know that something's going to happen to somebody I care for or I love or whatever. Because here's the thing. Everybody grieves. Everybody handles things in different ways. Some of us do it in denial. Some of us, are all prepared for it. But the thing of it is about life, when it comes to things like that, transitions of that nature, you never want to tell people that that's going to happen because we all know that death is inevitable. It's like paying taxes. You can't escape the IRS and you can't escape the Game Reaper. It's going to happen. However, it is not my business as a reader to tell you when you're going to pass or when someone that you love is going to pass, unless Spirit is really nudging me, and or you come to me and you say, hey, my father is 105. I'm really worried about my dad. What do you think of around my father?
Right.
But that's different because you asked.
Right. Exactly.
But if you didn't ask me, I'm not telling you.
I respect that so much, and I subscribe to the cardinal rule, as you said, that illness and death. First of all, people have been diagnosed with illnesses and then have had, because of mindset change and emotional shifts, have had miraculous recoveries. The illness serves a purpose as a catalyst to move you in a new direction. So speaking of illness, Cerebral Palsy, talk about when you were a boy and what was that for you? And let's talk about healing. My goodness, talk about being a healer.
Thank you. Well, born with cerebral palsy, I weighed 2 pounds and 9 ounces. And
oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and the doctor gave me 30 days to live. And the doctor said to my mother, but he's a fighter. He's going to make it, I think. And my mother because they were telling her, they said, we don't know. The nurses were telling her, we don't know if he's going to make it. And she would just growl at them because she was like, that's not true. My baby's going to make it. And lo and behold, I'm here. And I've had, 13 procedures done on my legs because my version of cerebral palsy affects my legs. Mm-hmm. So my legs and my right arm. So I am paralyzed on my right side. And my legs they don't straighten out all the way. And I have one leg that's longer than another. And I've had 13 procedures done. I've got the scars to prove it. I've had, serial casting done. I've had my ankles broken, my calves cut in two.
Lord.
Yes. So I've had a lot of procedures like Cher has. Just on I love me some Sherilyn. I love Cher. She's my girl. But, and I mean it as a joke, ladies and gentlemen. I love her to death.
Yes,
but,
absolutely.
But yeah, honestly, for me, I didn't know that I was disabled until recently because I wasn't treated like that in family. I wasn't treated like I was a special case. You know, like and let me rephrase that. I was, but I wasn't. You know, on one hand, my mother was like, well, you are disabled. But then on the other hand, it was like, but you can do anything. And so I got a lot of mixed messages. So when I would go out into the public, into the world, I was like, well, why can't I go and dance? Why can't I go and do gymnastics? I can do that, right? And people look at me and be like, you sure you want to do that? I don't think you can do that, you know. But I learned that I can do things. I just do things differently. You know what I mean? And I learned from it to not allow my disability to be a hindrance, but to be a help. And it has been. Yeah, it has. That
is so fascinating. And here's the other thing I want to ask you, because my experience with a number of the different psychic mediums that I've had the opportunity to speak with is similar to yourself, have had very substantial life challenges, whether they were born with an illness or they actually had life-death experiences where they almost died. And some of them found that in these near-death experiences that it was thereafter that there was a much more abundance of psychic energy and information. Do you think that your cerebral palsy, the fact that you were a fighter and almost didn't make it and had to fight to survive, were on the cusp of life and death as a baby, gave you an open door and access to the other side that stayed open even when you then healed?
I think so, because I really didn't discover my psychic ability until I was in high school. I was 19, I would say 19 years old, and I just sitting, and I had a friend of mine, my best friend at the time, and I wanted to be a singer. My goal was to be in entertainment. I wanted to, and I kind of am, just in a different way. But I wanted to be
with a different voice,
Yeah, just a different kind of instrument. But I wanted to be a singer. I studied music, and even though I can't read a note, I'm like Dolly Parton, I can't read a note. But studied voice, studied piano, you know, and just knew. I said, well, if I don't become a singer, I'll be a music teacher. So I honestly, to answer your question, yes, I do think that because of my illness, because of my disability, it has opened up my psychic, intuitive mediumship ability because it never went away. And I would try to deny it and you know, oh, it's no big deal, stuff moving around, you know, stuff moving around, stuff closing and opening on its own. Oh, no, you know. I lived in haunted houses, so I was like, okay, that's no big deal. And then, too, growing up, my mother is also psychic. My mother's clairvoyant.
Oh.
Yeah. So I didn't get away with nothing. You know, and so, you know, my mother's clairvoyant, and then my half-sister is also, she's clairvoyant, too, but she dreams it. She's a dreamer. She'll dream it, and it happens.
Oh, wow.
So it runs in the family. And I hate to use that. I hate saying that because I ain't being, it runs in the family. Because that's what but, you know, but in my case, it does. And in my case, we didn't call it, you know, psychic. We called it being touched, you know.
Oh, interesting.
I'm from the South. I'm from Alabama originally, but, you know, or we called it the gift. Oh, you got the gift. You know, we didn't call it anything like that. So I didn't know that I had an ability until, like I said, until I was in high school. So
what was the first thing? Did you like frighten, you know, the Cowardly Lion and the Wizard of Oz who kept scaring himself because he was pulling his own tail?
Oh, yes, and I'm still like that to this day. My goodness, are you kidding me? People, you know, Leo, you should do a paranormal investigation. I've done one. I've done one paranormal investigation, and that was enough for me. I said, you know what? I don't do this. My thing is about love and relationships and meeting people that are celebrities, and that's it. I am not doing no paranormal stuff. Don't ask me. I have nothing against the paranormal industry. I think it's great, but I know that that's not for me. And so, oh, yeah, I'm very much a scaredy cat. You let something move around me, I'm the first one to run. So, yes.
So what was the first sign that you had for yourself and realized,
Ooh,
This is
okay.
interesting.
Let me see. The first time for me that I had for myself, I was 9 years old.
Wow.
And, no, let me go back. I was 10 years old. And we lived in this house. And I didn't realize it, but it was haunted. We lived in this really old-style house, and it was built in, like, the 1910s, I think. And it was a beautiful home. But I just remember my bedroom. I hated going to sleep, and I was like, why do I not like sleeping? And one night, kid you not, my bed literally levitated, and it started to spin.
Wow.
I feel it spinning, and I'm like, oh, my God. And I knew nobody could hear me, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, like, stop it. And for some reason, it was only me.
That's incredible. Well, you know what? On that note, we're going to spin into a commercial because that's pretty incredible. And that's really going to set you, sort of set you on the edge of your bed. And I hope everybody's on the edge of their seats to hear more when we come back. So stay with us. You're listening to the Shrink Wrap on Call show here at HealthyLife.net.
What About Me? How to Stop Selfishness from Ruining Your Relationship. It's the brand new book from Dr. Jane Geer. With 25 years of relationship counseling, Dr. Jane Geer has heard the same questions and seen the same patterns about selfishness in relationships. From wondering if you're living with the most selfish person alive to wondering if you are the one with the selfish tendencies. Dr. Jane Geer will help you see an option to the never-ending fight. Stop the guilty pressure of selfish sex and other actions, and pressure to do everything to reprove your love in the relationship. Vanessa Williams, the actress, says Dr. Jane Geer's book, What About Me, is a must-read. This book is both insightful and empowering. You, too, can end the selfish game and move from me to we. Find out more about Dr. Jane at drjanegeer.com. Also, find What About Me on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, SourceBooks.com, independent bookstores, and any place else books are sold.
Karma. Good karma. Good karma means the Good Karma Collection, a jewelry line embraced by some of Hollywood's biggest names and featured as a style-setting piece in People's Magazine. The Good Karma Collection is a timeless, stylish gift for teens, men, women, anyone. A unique collection of sterling silver jewelry, all designed to promote good wishes and good karma. A percentage of profits is donated to cancer-related charities across the USA. Check out the engraved Chinese characters representing positive energy, harmony, success, or their bestseller, a sterling silver pendant on a silver ball chain. Affordable, beautiful, and good karma. Found at Zero Minus Plus Boutique at Fred Siegel in Santa Monica, California, or call 310-395-5718. That's 310-395-5718.
All positive talk with a mature edge. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back to the Shrink Wrap on Call show here at HealthyLife.net. My guest is celebrity psychic Leo Brown, the author of Honey, I'm Fabulous and So Are You. So we were talking before break. The bed was spinning. Were you scared out of your mind, or were you like,
oh
this
honey,
is cool.
I didn't know what to do.
So what did you do?
I just screamed out of my lungs, and at the time I was a really big Christian, so I would be, in the name of Jesus, let me go. and eventually the bed stopped, and I heard just like a thud. And I'll never forget it as long as I live. And I'm like, okay. And nobody heard me, because the next day I talked to my mom and my sister, and I said, did anybody hear anything last night? They were like, no. And I'm like,
wow.
Okay, it's just me. And I thought I was going crazy, but it happened. And then when I was when I moved on my own, I lived with my roommates at the time. I had a lot of paranormal experiences because I had gone through a really bad bout of depression, and I didn't know it then, but I was battling bipolar depression at the time, and. Wow. Because of that, and you would know this to be true, too. Any psychic worth their salt will tell you that when you have a low mood, it often attracts low vibrational things.
Yes.
So what happened was my mood was so low that, the doors would close on their own, the lights would flicker on and off. things would slam shut, and it would scare the bejesus out of me because I was like, oh my God, it's happening again. Because it would go back to childhood.
Wow.
Trauma. I'm like, So, yeah, and that was when I knew then when I started to embrace my mediumship abilities. So.
Fascinating, and you're so right because when your energy is down, boy, we got ringing in the background. When your energy is down, you attract all kinds of lower energies, not only from the other side, but just from people around you, which is why now what we're living through with the pandemic and not being able to hug and touch and transmit positive energy and connection to one another is so confounding. So, all right. With those experiences, when you started to see, this is not an isolated instance. There's stuff going on, and I have a key to the other side, and I'm getting information that 9 out of 10 people are not getting. When did you decide, you know what, I don't think I'm going to go to be an accountant or an engineer. I'm going to do this for a living. Like, how did that come?
Well, honestly, I slipped into it. I didn't, like I said, despite all that, I still wanted to be a singer. I wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. So I was writing songs, writing poems, and, singing and stuff. Now, mind you, I didn't really pursue being a singer. I just wanted the glamour and the glitter that came with it. But, because I was like, well, this looks easy, right? And I knew I could sing. So I was like, well, I can do it, but I don't know the protocols to get into the music industry. So even though my father was a music producer, but anywho. So.
Oh, wow.
So I stumbled into being a psychic, and it was actually my best friend at the time, a man by the name of James Geer. He said, I think you've got a beautiful voice. You've got a great voice, but I think your thing is to be with the people. And I was like, like what? Like being in politics? I don't think so. And he said, well, no, I think you're meant to do something bigger than that. And he was the one that said, I think you should start, look into getting a job as a telephone reader. And I was like the 1-900 numbers? I don't do that. Like, Miss Clee. I'm like, And then I started to do it. I said, you know what? Okay, let me do this. I think I could do this. And he ended up giving me my first package of tarot cards, and he taught me, and he was like, you got it already. I'm just teaching you to hone it. He's like, think of it like vocal training. You already know how to sing. I'm just making you hone it and making it sharper, better for you. So, so I practiced and I gave readings, and people were, and it was funny, even when I was in high school, people would actually come to me for advice. And I didn't know it then, but I would tell them exactly what my inner voice said. And my best friend at the time was like, you're clairvoyant. And I was like, what's clairvoyant? I don't know what that is. And he was like, no, you're really clairvoyant, because at the time he had gone through a relationship issue. And he came to me and he said, how long do you think me and this person are going to, how long do you think it'll be before, we're back together? I looked at him square in the face, and I said 3 months. And 3 months later, they were back together. And I didn't realize that I had said that. But it happened. And so I started to do readings, and I realized that I understood the people. I related to a lot of the people, and I said, I get this. But what made it really real for me, was I had a caller. I forgot her name. I think her name was Linda. And she called me about her boyfriend. And I said to her, I don't know why I'm getting this, but I'm getting that something's going to happen with your boyfriend within the next 3 days. And I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm just being told this. Now, mind you, when I first started doing the readings, I was nervous as a cat. Because I was like, I don't know. I would stutter and stammer. Because, of course, when you do readings via the phone, especially when you go for, the hotline, people want you to know, off the top of your head. And I was like, okay, it takes a little time for me to connect. It's not that easy, each time. And so I told her what I told her. I said, well, give it 3 days. Something's going to happen. And then I would say maybe a week later she called me, and she said, you remember when you said that something's going to happen to my boyfriend within 3 days? I said, yes. She said, well, you were right. I said, oh, I'm thinking it's something good. And she said, he died.
Oh, my God.
And I said, excuse me? She said, yeah, he died. And it turns out her boyfriend was addicted to drugs. And she said the reason why she called me was because she wanted some help. She wanted some advice on how to get him help. And I didn't know any of this. So I was
unbelievable.
Yeah, and that was when I knew. I said, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm not meant to be a singer. I'm not meant to be on stage. And then, number one, I had like the worst stage right in the world. So I'm like, I'm not meant to be on stage like this or like in that arena. So this is what I'm meant to do. And I've been in it.
It's so fascinating because instinctively and intuitively you knew it was your voice that needed to be heard, and that would bring joy and pleasure to people. It was just finding the right song. You see?
Yeah. And I've always been a ham. I've always been I'm a Leo, I'm a double Leo with a Capricorn moon.
Are you really? You're a Leo?
Yeah.
Leo, that's incredible.
So for all my astrologer friends, do the math. It's a lot. So
when's your birthday?
August 13th.
August? Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was actually supposed to be a Scorpio. Had I been carried, I would have been a Scorpio November 13th. But Fire said no, we want him. So here I am. But no, I've always been a ham. I've always wanted attention, and I think growing up in a household where you're trying to get attention from said parent, it does something like that. So you automatically go into the careers where you're being seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Seen and heard. Well, we are going to keep hearing you, and we're going to take a break and be back in just a minute. So stay with us because more of Leo and on the Shrink Wrap on Call show at HealthyLife.net. Stay with us. We'll be back very soon.
What About Me? How to Stop Selfishness from Ruining Your Relationship. It's the brand new book from Dr. Jane Geer. With 25 years of relationship counseling, Dr. Jane Geer has heard the same questions and seen the same patterns about selfishness in relationships. From wondering if you're living with the most selfish person alive to wondering if you are the one with the selfish tendencies. Dr. Jane Geer will help you see an option to the never-ending fight. Stop the guilty pressure of selfish sex and other actions, and pressure to do everything to reprove your love in the relationship. Vanessa Williams, the actress, says Dr. Jane Geer's book, What About Me, is a must-read. This book is both insightful and empowering. You, too, can end the selfish game and move from me to we. Find out more about Dr. Jane at drjanegeer.com. Also, find What About Me on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, SourceBooks.com, independent bookstores, and any place else books are sold.
Get your moto going at the Motorola store online. Visit the HealthyLife.net advertiser page, click on Motorola, and you'll discover a whole new world of phones. Plus, you can get great deals on phones, with or without contract. That's great, Moto. And don't forget, they even have Bluetooth and other phone accessories. But that's not all. Want more Moto? Motorola has home and office phones and two-way radios. And for the best Moto ever, Motorola has great specials right online. Go to the HealthyLife.net advertiser page and click on the Motorola banner now and get your moto going.
Dr. Doris Day is a board-certified dermatologist who specializes in laser, cosmetic, and surgical dermatology on the Upper East Side in New York City. Dr. Day believes in looking your best at any age with the most conservative, personalized, and gentle approach. Day Dermatology and Aesthetics is located at 135 East 71st Street. For more information about Dr. Day's new product line, visit our website at www.myclearskin.com or by calling 212-772-0740. Find out more about Dr. Day and her products like Light and Bright Pads, Facial Silk Sunscreen, and Calming Sea Gel. That's www.myclearskin.com or 212-772-0740. Feel and look beautiful. You deserve it. That's Dr. Doris Day at 212-772-0740.
music, information, and friends. HealthyLife.net.
Welcome back to the Shrink Wrap on Call show here at HealthyLife.net. My guest is celebrity psychic Leo Brown, the author of Honey, I'm Fabulous and So Are You. What a great title, because we all want to be fabulous. So when did you decide I'm going to work with fabulous people? How did you migrate into celebrities? Because everybody wants to be a celebrity. You wanted your own fame and fortune. Mm-hmm. How did you, parlay that into working with the people who really were already out there and seen and heard?
Well, originally, here we go. Originally, I wanted to actually get into radio. I wanted to do what you do, actually. I wanted to be a radio host, and I had a radio show on Blog Talk Radio, Blog Talk Radio. And I had a show called Real Talk with Leo Brown, and I interviewed, interfaith minister Selena Fox. I interviewed LaToya Jackson, people like that. And I said, I want to reach out to these celebrities and give them readings. And so what I did was, I said, well, I realized that I can't really get in radio because I don't really know anybody. I don't know any real connections in radio. So I said, well, let me do this. Let me reach out to the celebrities via social media. And so that's how it happened. And so what I would do is I would write. I would literally, and this is when, and I didn't realize this either, but a friend of mine was like, okay, they read one of the readings I had done. I had done a reading for Latrice Royale of RuPaul's Drag Race. And they read it, and they were like, do you know anything about her? And I said, no. All I know is that she's on RuPaul's Drag Race, and then she's cool. And they were like, you realize that you're a channeler, right? And I said, what do you mean? They said, because how'd you get all this information and you know nothing about this person?
Wow.
Well, I guess. So what I did was I posted it on my social media, my Twitter and Facebook and stuff. And then what I would do, I would tag them in it, hoping they would see it. And lo and behold, they would see it. And Latrice Royale saw it, and she read it, and she was like, oh, my God, this is so on point. She was like, we got to meet someday. I'm like, thank you so much. I was like, oh, my God, he actually saw it. So I'm like, I'm this thing. I did it, honey. Latrice Royale saw my reading, And then I did a reading for Rolanda, the talk show host, Rolanda Watts.
Oh, yeah, I did her show. She's lovely. She's so lovely.
I love her. I did a reading for her. And at the time, I've done so many different things. At the time, I was actually I was learning numerology around the time.
Oh, wow.
I said, well, let me learn. And now, mind you, I'm horrible at math, but somehow I wanted to learn numerology. See that way. So
I get it. Leo, I totally understand it, because I have to share that with you, not meaning to interrupt, but I have the same thing. Everybody who knows me knows I can't do numbers. God bless my patients, because they're always correcting me. I'm always charging under or forgetting to charge. I can't and to save my life. But I live by the numbers.
Right. And so I started to do it, and I said, well, let me do. And she was the first celebrity reading that I really went after. And I said, I'm going to do one for her, because she had a show called Sundays with Rolanda. And I was like, I would love to do her show. I was like, I want to do her show so bad. And I said, well, no. I said, well, she doesn't really know me, but so how am I going to get her to notice? And something said, why don't you do a reading for her? So I did so Spirit was like, do a reading for Rolanda. So I did one, and she saw it. She saw it on LinkedIn of all places. And she said, that was a wonderful reading. She was like, you need to do my show. And we became friends. And I was like, oh, my God.
Amazing.
And so that's how it happened, because originally, like I said, I wanted a career in radio. My goal was radio, to have a radio show where I would interview, I would do things like this. I would interview celebrities and stuff. Because I didn't want just a psychic show, because unfortunately that's what my show on Blog Talk became. It became, free readings. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I'm not typical. I don't want to do just free readings. I want to talk about real-life issues, current events, celebrity stuff, and then bring in the readings and tie it all together. Kind of like Wendy Williams, but just not as trashy. So I wanted to do that. And then I said, well, and then maybe they can parlay for me going into the actual profession and getting a job at a radio station, And at the time, this was when the Real Housewives of Atlanta was really popular. And I was like, I would love to read for those girls, and do something with them or with, Ricky Smiley or whatever. And so that was my goal at the time. And so that's how I started to reach out to celebrities. And, the rest is history.
Yeah, that's so terrific, Leo, because you really had the confidence and the faith in yourself. You had the spirits, pushing you along, and you were proactive. You reached out, and you had your talent and your gift that people could really see. And talent speaks for itself. And, it's true. When you're talented, if one thing that goes well and you do something really well for one person, then they pass you on. And that's how suddenly you're finding that, I've got all these different people who really are, coming my way for reading. So now, is there, given you were drawn to certain people back then, is there any celebrity right now that you would, love to read for?
Wow. Okay. I still have a thing I would love to read for. Believe it or not, I'd love to sit down. I'd love to read for Madonna.
Wow.
I'd love to read for another medium, believe it or not. Another, a person that's on TV. I'd love to read for either Matt Frazier, because he's on E, or I'd love to read for John Edward.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
John Edward. Don't you love John Edward?
I do. I would love to read for him and just pick his brain, because I think he would be a great person to read for. And also, I love to read for Patti LaBelle, the singer, because I think now we get along famously. And like her, I love to cook. So all we need to do is just cook and talk. And also with me, my reading style is very conversational. I'm not let me see your future. Give me your hand. I'm not all dramatic. And a lot of people want, and unfortunately, a lot of people want that. A lot of people want to show.
Really?
They do.
Really? That's so interesting.
I run into that all the time. People, do you do readings? When I tell them, oh, you do readings? Yes. Oh, well, can I come to your house? No. And they're like, well, why not? And the reason why I say no is because, number one, I don't know what kind of energy you're bringing into my home.
Exactly. Well said. Absolutely.
And the second thing is, most of the time, I used to do readings in person. And what I noticed was, most of the time, they wanted a show. They wanted me to just blow them out of the water, as the old folks would say, with information. And I'm like, that's not what this is. This is not that power. Like, no. And, are you 100% accurate? I'm not God, honey. No, I'm not. I don't know everything. I don't want to know everything. I'm not supposed to know everything.
Exactly.
I'm a learner just like you. Go ahead.
I have to agree with you completely and utterly, because I find it, I've been a believer and an advocate of the other side of psychics and mediums forever. And I find it so distressing when somebody gets a reading and maybe one or two things are not on point, and they're like, well, they didn't know this, they didn't know that. And like I say, I do sessions every week with people, and I remember the first thing I learned when I was learning how to do psychotherapy, my teacher and mentor said, and also with teaching, if you teach or say one thing in a session that a patient leaves with that is meaningful, you've done a great job. You've done great work. If you teach one concept in a 3-hour class that the student leaves with and it has relevance and meaning and they can integrate it and apply it and it helps transform the way they conceptualize their work, you've done a great job teaching. And the same thing is true with a reading, that, in my opinion, if you tell somebody, in 3 days something's going to happen with your boyfriend, you could go on and talk gobbledygook for another hour. If 3 days later her boyfriend passes away, boy, that's what we call hitting the nail on the head and the bullseye. And all the rest is just, sometimes like when you have milk and you boil it and there's the skim on top, sometimes you got to get through the skim to get to the hot milk, as you would say, all the ingredients in the kitchen and all the cooks. So, do you find it frustrating when people have these expectations that are so unrealistic to be on point? Hold on to that note. We're going to take a break, and then I want to hear when we come back like how you deal with your expectations of what you're going to give people and their expectations of what they want you to give them. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a minute at the Shrink Wrap on Call show here at HealthyLife.net.
What About Me? How to Stop Selfishness from Ruining a Relationship. It's the brand new book from Dr. Jane Greer. With 25 years of relationship counseling, Dr. Jane Greer has heard the same questions and seen the same patterns about selfishness in relationships. From wondering if you're living with the most selfish person alive to wondering if you are the one with the selfish tendencies. Dr. Jane Greer will help you see an option to the never-ending fight. Stop the guilty pressure of selfish sex and other actions, and pressure to do everything to reprove your love in the relationship. Vanessa Williams, the actress, says Dr. Jane Greer's book, What About Me, is a must-read. This book is both insightful and empowering. You, too, can end the selfish game and move from me to we. Find out more about Dr. Jane at drjanegreer.com. Also, find What About Me on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, SourceBooks.com, independent bookstores, and any place else books are sold.
On March 6, 2004, Tom Pierce, his wife Joanne, and his daughter Lisa were on the water taxi that overturned in Baltimore's Inner Harbor. Tom survived, however, his wife Joanne and daughter Lisa did not. Tom's book, The Last Rose, is about the first year of Tom's life after the accident and the many signs that helped him through it. Tom talks about the accident, but it's not a book about the accident. It's about the power of love. Love as we know it and understand it, and love that goes beyond our understanding. It won a Next Generation Indie Book Award for the Best Inspirational Book. And you can learn more about the book and find links to purchase the book on Tom's website, www.thelastrose.com. It's available in hardcover, Kindle, and Nook editions. The Last Rose may be the perfect book for anyone who has experienced the loss of a loved one. That's www.thelastrose.com. www.thelastrose.com.
You're listening to CHSR Real Radio on the web.
Welcome back to the Shrink Wrap on Call show here at HealthyLife.net. My guest is celebrity psychic Leo Brown. He's the author of Honey, I'm Fabulous and So Are You. We've been talking about all the different celebrities you've read for and the people you would like to read for. At this point, do you find, like you were saying before, that you didn't want to do just a straight reading, psychic reading show for radio or anything? Do you find it gets tiring to have your psychic energy? Can you turn it off, or like how do you moderate it?
Well, I wouldn't say I can cut it off. I can cut it down. And it also depends on if I have to open it up too, because I can tell you that I'll never forget this. This was during Halloween. This was many years ago. I went to a costume shop to get something for a Halloween party. And something was like, you need to open up your abilities because somebody needs you. Spirit was just whispering to me. So I was like, okay. So I opened up, and it turns out the woman who was the salesperson, her sister had just passed.
Oh, wow.
And I picked up on her sister, and I was like, your sister's coming through. And she just broke down. She started crying. She was like, oh, my God, I didn't even want to come into work today. But I made it into work, and she was like, I'm so glad that you did that. And I gave her my card, and I said, listen, you don't have to call me, but I just wanted to let you know, that this is what I was being told to tell you. And that was it. So for me, I can't cut it off. I just cut it down.
Right.
It's like a radio dial. Just cut it down.
Right. Well, that's so that you're not always feeling the stress.
No, honey, if I were, I'd be insane. No, I'm not always, because I've never understood, and this is no shade to the ones that do, but I've never understood that, I feel a presence. Sit down somewhere. Sit down and have a seat. Because that's not the way it works. And just like you were asking about expectations,
right.
earlier before the break. The one thing I do to prepare people to not expect a lot is I tell them beforehand, listen, I'm just like you. I'm human. I'm the conduit. I'm the medium. I'm the go-between. So that means that certain information could get really messed up. I'm so sorry, okay? If you came in here and you expected it to be like Ghost with Oldham and Brown, you got the wrong one. It's not going to be that way, all right? So just be prepared, because in this moment, I know you, but I don't know you. There's a difference. So it may take some time for me to really see through the stuff. And part of it also may be with you, too, because here's the thing. If you come in with, here's the thing I often tell people, there's nothing wrong with being skeptic. Being a skeptic is actually a great thing, in my opinion. But at the same time, don't be so skeptical to where you close yourself off and information can't come through that you need, that you may need to know,
Right.
And like I tell people, my job is to tell you what you need to know, not what you want to hear. I'm not going to, make you feel good. That's not my job. I'm not a life counselor. I'm a life coach, okay? I'm going to tell you the truth and nothing but. And it's up to you on whether or not you want to hear it or not. And don't come to me with, well, I just want to know, what was the nickname my mother called me when I was a little girl? I don't know. Because chances are, I may not get your mama. I may get your aunt.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, but they want you to prove your ability, which is ridiculous. Give me the name that only somebody would know. I don't know that. Well, listen, here's your money back, because I don't know that. I'm sorry. I hate to break it to you, but no. And that's not the information they need at the moment. No. And that's the whole point. Now, before we run out of time, I wanted to ask you this. Maria and I used to teach psychic workshops out of the Learning Addicts, because she would say unequivocally, everybody has psychic ability. She would say, it's like Barbara Streisand. Everybody has a voice and everybody can sing. Some of us sing pretty loudly, myself included, and some of us sing like Barbara Streisand. Some of us have great voices. And people can learn to develop and to heighten and to intensify their psychic ability. Mm-hmm. Do you believe that? And have you found that, certain people that you've read for have, in fact, been more psychically attuned and therefore more receptive to the information you share with them?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you mentioned Barbara Streisand, because I often equate it to being a singer. It's like everybody can carry it. It's like Dolly Parton. Everybody can carry a tune. But when you go to a vocal coach and they teach you placement, they teach you how to breathe, they teach you phrasing.
Right.
And you learn how to hone what you already have. It's the same thing with being a psychic. Everybody has that ability. Everybody knows of their grandmother that would dream about a fish and somebody's pregnant. Everybody knows of, let me see, I'm trying to think of something. Everybody knows of their grandpa that would play the number every week.
Right.
Warning that.
And people would say, oh, I just knew she was going to call, or I knew I was going to run into you. That sort of instinct, that intuition that this is going to happen. We all have that. But most people discard it. They don't believe it, or they think it's coincidence.
That, and also as a society, because of social media and things like that, and everything being so instantaneous, it's been trained out of us. Including me at times. There are times where I don't listen to, I'll be the first one to tell you, the man of my dreams could walk into my house right now, and I'll be like, who in the world are you? I don't know. And I won't know. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm just like every other client. I'll go to my reader and be like, girl, all right, girl, who is he? And go listen to a word she said and be like, whatever, that ain't him. You lying. We all do it. So, yes, we all have the ability. We just have to hone it. Everybody has, if you feel things in your gut, that's claircognizance or empathy. If you hear things, that's clairaudience. If you see things, whether it be in dreams or, you're out somewhere, you see numbers, that's clairvoyance. So you do have it. You just don't know what to call it. But also we've been trained to to not believe it because we live in a world where we're in such a rush. And I'm kind of grateful, to be honest, for the pandemic because it's forcing all of us to slow down.
Absolutely. And, such a truth to what you're saying, Leo. It's forcing us to slow down and also pay attention to one another in ways that we haven't done before so that we are more in tune with ourselves and we're learning how to be in touch with one another in such different ways.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, it's like Mother Earth is saying, okay, you won't sit down, I'll make you sit down. I'll make you look at yourself. I'll make you reflect. I'll make not take for granted what you have.
Well, speaking of not taking it for granted, Leo, you are really exceptional. I want to thank you so much for being here, for joining us for the whole hour. Listeners, you can find more from Leo on Twitter at The Real Leo Brown. And if people want to get in touch with you to schedule readings, what's the best way? Through Twitter?
They can go to my website, which is psychicleo.com. And on my website, you can find my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram. I am on Instagram. You'll see me in various states of undress. That's a joke, people. But, yes, and I have a YouTube channel as well. So you can find me. If you go to my website, you'll find all the links to every social media handle that I have.
Terrific. Well, that is wonderful to know. Make sure to stay in touch with Leo. Get the information you need for your life right now. We all need to know what's happening, that's for sure. And that is it for today. Join me next month for our Best of Encore presentation of the Doctor on Call Hour. Stay in touch with me off the air at my Facebook page and on Twitter at Dr. Jane Greer. Remember, send me your questions for the Let's Talk Sex Show at AskDrJane at drjanegreer.com. And thanks for listening, everyone. Remember, you can always get what you want when you're in the know.